Hello everyone, my name is Elza Ibroscheva and I am a professor of mass communications and associate provost at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. And thank you everybody for giving me an opportunity to talk a little bit about my paper in this issue of the journal entitled From Socialist Amazons to Bodies on Full Display, Gender Stereotypes in Bulgarian Advertising During Socialism and in the Post-Socialist Transition. Essentially, what I wanted to do in this critical essay is to reflect on the changing images of women as visual displays used in the mean of advertising. So I did some studying of the medium of advertising during socialism, both in terms of its ideological foundation, but also in terms of its alignment with the gender stereotypes and the ideologies that served the idea of the equality of sexes that the communist regime promulgated. So as a result of that, advertising that was never really meant to promote consumption per se, but was really meant to advocate for responsible consumption and for contribution to the markets as in the planned economy, that very much aligned also with an imagery of women that put a heavy stress on their productivity and their contribution to social and political life. So if there were ever visual displays of women in advertising, they were very minimal, and they certainly were not informed by the same ideas of sexuality and the same ideas of bodies in display that Western advertising relies on. So what I did is I basically wanted to look at how this image of the woman during socialism, both in terms of advertising, but also in general in visual media, changed as the communist regime collapsed and the media market opened itself to a lot of influences and inspiration from Western advertising that were not available and were not allowed previously. And just at the cusp of the end of the totalitarian regime in Bulgaria, what we witnessed was an influx of Western influences, and with it a proliferation of media outlets that draw immediate inspiration and also model much of their creative ideas upon Western advertising without necessarily having the professional ability to execute this. So in some very crude ways, what we saw was women's bodies fully implemented as means of selling anything from computers to vinyl siding into air conditioning, and becoming the primary source of really commodifying women's sexualities and therefore impacting women's identities and their shaping sense of worth during the post-socialist condition. It is important here to note that during socialism, women lost a lot of the labor advantages that the equality of the sexes provided during socialism, and more importantly, they also lost all of the or most of the state-supported privileges that they were able to take advantage of during socialism. So both in terms of losing their social and economic positioning from socialism, they also were then deployed and were used, the bodies of women were used as a mean of selling. And in many ways, what I argue is that this very immediate and what appeared to be almost instantaneous transformation of the ideology of the female body has led towards impacting women's self-worth, and more importantly has led towards what I would call a resurgence of patriarchal norms that are pushing women more in the home and less out of the workplace. And advertising in many ways, because it has pushed in for beauty and sexuality to be on full display, has contributed largely to these changing identities, which I hope are going to be transformed in the future, but I also argue have been indelibly impacted by this transformation as reflected upon and documented in my essay. So I hope you enjoy reading it, and please do feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or any comments. Take care. Bye-bye.